Danny crouched behind the crystalline outcropping, her breath fogging in the thin atmosphere of Kepler 442b. The xenobiology survey was supposed to be routine, catalog the local fauna, take some tissue samples, and return to the Endeavour before sunset. Supposed to be. Danny. Report. Jasper's voice crackled through her cum. You've been radio silent for 10 minutes. Slight complication, she whispered, peering around the rock. 20 meters away, what the initial surveys had classified as a passive herbivore was actively shredding a trionog with 6-inch crystalline claws. The creature stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in iridescent scales that shifted between deep purple and electric blue. The Keplerian definitely not herbivores. Copy that. I'm at the shuttle. Need extraction. Danny checked her scanner. The adult ridgeback was moving away, its massive tail carving furrows in the alien soil. Negative. I think I can. Something small and furry launched itself at her face. Danny yelped, stumbling backward as needle-sharp teeth sank into her forearm. The creature, no, bigger than a terrier but packed with corded muscle, growled with surprising ferocity. Its scales were softer than the adult's, mottled with juvenile patterns, but its bite was very, very real. Pain lanced up Danny's arm. Her vision swam red dot and Danny, expedition xenobiologist with 3 doctorates and a reputation for professional composure, did something that would later be described in the galactic database as inadvisable, unprecedented, and somehow effective. She bit back. Her teeth found purchase on the cub's scruff. The taste was awful, somewhere between copper and burnt ozone, but she clamped down hard, channeling every ounce of primate territorial aggression her DNA could muster. The cub's eyes, all 6 of them, went wide with shock for 3 heartbeats. Human and alien remained locked in the galaxy's most ridiculous standoff. Then the cub let go. Danny released it immediately, scrambling backward and clutching her bleeding arm. The cub sat on its haunches, head tilted, studying her with an expression that might have been confusion or respect or possibly indigestion. Danny, Jasper's voice was frantic now. I'm picking up your elevated heart rate. Status, I'm fine, she panted, never breaking eye contact with the cub. I just bit an apex predator's baby. Silence on the cum. Then, you what? It bit me first. The cub chirped an oddly musical sound and took a step toward her. Danny raised her hands. No, bad stay. It took another step, chirped again. I don't speak ridgeback, buddy. Go find your mum. The cub sat down at her feet and began grooming its front claws, completely at ease. 20 minutes later, Danny trudged back to the shuttle with her new shadow padding along beside her. The cub had refused to leave, following her with single-minded devotion. When she walked, it walked. When she stopped, it sat. When she tried to run, it loped easily alongside her, occasionally bumping against her leg like an oversized, scaly cat. Jasper stood at the shuttle ramp, medkit in hand, staring at the unlikely pair. His dark eyes were wide behind his visor. That's a juvenile Keplerian ridgeback. Yep, it's following you. Yep, because you bit it. Apparently. Jasper ran a hand through his close-cropped hair. Danny, do you understand what you've done? Ridgebacks are documented as the apex predator on this continent. They're territorial, aggressive, and have never shown any indication of social bonding behaviors. What you're describing should be impossible. The cub chose that moment to sit on Danny's foot, leaning its considerable weight against her shin. It looked up at her with those 6 luminous eyes, and chirped. Danny sighed. Someone should update the documentation then. Back on the Endeavour, Chief Science Officer Cora Centaurian with too many degrees and too little patience listened to Danny's report with increasing disbelief. Her translator struggled with the chittering sounds of disapproval. Let me understand. Cora's antennae twitched. You encountered an infant apex predator, engaged in mutual combat, established dominance through ... biting ... and it imprinted on you. That's the working theory, Danny said. The cub, which they'd temporarily named Chomper until xenolinguistics could determine its species naming conventions, was currently curled at her feet in the observation room, making contented rumbling noises. Humans, Cora muttered. You people are insane. You know that? Yes. Every other species in the Galactic Federation practices non-interference, careful observation, and measured response. You bite back. Jasper, who'd been running tissue analysis on both Danny and Chomper, looked up from his console. In fairness, biting is a fairly universal dominance signal among Earth's predators. Danny's hindbrain probably knew something her forebrain hadn't processed yet. Her Cora repeated flatly. Mammals are complicated. The Centaurian turned back to Danny. And now, you have an alien apex predator following you around like a domestic pet. What is your plan? Danny looked down at Chomper, who had rolled onto his back, exposing his armored belly in what the preliminary behavioral data suggested was a trust display. One of his clawed feet was resting on her boot. "We study the relationship," she said simply. "This is the first recorded case of cross-species bonding between humans and Keplerian fauna. Chomper is young enough that we might learn their language, their social structures." "There you want to keep it," Tora interrupted. "I want to understand it." "There's a difference, is there?" But the chief science officer's antennae had shifted to an angle that, Jasper had learned, meant curiosity rather than disapproval. "Very well. Document everything. If you somehow manage to befriend an apex predator by biting it, the Galactic Federation will want to know. Though I suspect they'll file this under humans being impossible rather than practical xenobiology." 3 months later, Danny's paper, Establishing Interspecies Bonds Through Reciprocal Aggression, a case study, would become required reading at every xenobiology program in the Federation. Chomper would grow to his full 3 meters, become the first Ridgeback to learn Standard, and serve as ambassador for his species when they applied for Federation membership. But in that moment, sitting in the observation room with an alien cub sleeping on her feet, Danny just smiled at Jasper. "Think they'll believe the report? That you bit an apex predator and gained a loyal companion?" "No," he grinned. "But that's humans for you. We don't follow the rules. We make them bite us first." Chomper chirped in his sleep, and somewhere on Kepler 4 to be, his mother was probably wondering why her cubs smelled like soap and processed rations. But in the grand tradition of humanity's expansion into the stars, sometimes the best first contact protocols were the ones you made up on the spot, preferably with teeth. End.